Welcome to part 4 of the Albert Hammond interview. Now, the story behind the Hollies, The Air That I Breathe, Julio Iglesias and Willie Nelson with To All the Girls I've Loved Before, and of course, Diana Ross with When You Tell Me That You Love Me.
I got to know the Everleys, and especially Phil Everly, and he recorded The Air That I Breathe, and he actually had done a whole album that he'd written, except for that song. And he knew the Hollies were fans. I mean, I think everybody in England were fans of the Everleys, even the Beatles, you know. And he sent his album and said, choose a song, you know, of mine and do it. And they chose The Air That I Breathe, that he hadn't written, you know. So every time he saw me, he would say, you son of a bitch, you know. Because there were 9 of his songs and they happened to choose the one that he hadn't written, you know. And I think that started it, you know. And then Cass Elliot recorded If You Gotta Break Another Heart and the one we were talking about before. So the Hollies did The Air That I Breathe. Then Cass Elliot did If You Gotta Break Another Heart and Listen to the World. She recorded those 2 songs, you know. And I realized you know, that you could actually write songs for people. So on my 3rd album, I was asked to write a song for Garfunkel. He was doing an album in San Francisco with Roy Halley, who produced Simon and Garfunkel, you know, this great producer engineer. And so, you know, Mike and I got to go up there, and we'd written this song called Mary Was an Only Child. And so we went up there. Art recorded the song. It was on his first solo album. But I got to meet Roy Halley. And when I met Roy Halley, there was a nice little chemistry there, you know. And there were like 4 or 5 studios there. So I was recording with Roy Halley in one studio, and Santana was recording in the other studio. And suddenly, if you needed like a bongo player or a percussionist, you know, you just go next door and say, listen, can we borrow you for 10 minutes, you know? And so that's how I'm a Train came along, you know. It's a song written in the early to mid 60s by Mike and I, but it was never, it was recorded by many people, but it was never a success, you know, until I did it, and then became a success. I don't know why, I mean, you know, but sometimes songs, you know, they wait for their right moment or whatever it is. I can tell you that about To All the Girls I've Loved Before. It was 11 years old when Julio asked me to help him out with his first English record. And, you know, I wanted to give him that song, but already Engelbert and a zillion other people had recorded it, including myself, in 1973 or 4. And this was 83. So I went home and I recorded it onto a cassette. And I said, I've just written a brand new song for you, Julio. And he said, play it. And I played it, and he said, oh, I love this. We have to record this right now. And so we did it that night. And then I called Julio's Willie's manager that same night. He said, get on a plane and come over to Austin tomorrow. And Willie he says he will do it, you know. And so sometimes songs, that was like 10 or 11 years it waited, you know.
I mean, on the base of that one, and what's really fascinating is that it really feels like 2 people from different worlds. Julio Iglesias from one world and Willie Nelson from a completely different world, but somehow it works.
It worked because it's going against the grain. That's what you know, Willie had just come off this huge hit with You're Always on My Mind from the Stardust album. So he was like really hot at that moment. And Julio was, you know, the playboy from Europe, you know, and I thought, put the playboy and the cowboy together, and they both sing with their hearts, you know, and they both have a particular sound. You know, when you hear Willie, you know it's Willie. When you hear Julio, you know it's Julio, you know. So I thought it was perfect, you know. And CBS actually scolded me for that because they thought I was ruining their Playboy, their international Playboy, with this cowboy.
What does it take for a singer to be able to sort of embody the emotions of a song and to make it appear as if it's theirs so that we believe them? And people like Whitney, of course, Tina, who you've worked with, you know, even Leo Sayer with When I Need You, I think that's something that was really an embodiment of the feeling of the song. What do they have to have? What's special about those artists that they can do that?
Well, first of all, they have to love the song, and they have to love it for an inward reason, a personal reason, not, oh, it sounds like a hit, you know. I mean, a good example of that is Diana Ross, you know, When You Tell Me That You Love Me. Because when she received that song, you know, her main thing was, you wrote this for my children. So it was so much her song, because it was to her, it was about her children. And the beauty of songs is that to each person that hears it, they make it their own. Because I've asked people, why do you like this song? And then someone else and someone else, and they all have different reasons of why, you know. So they make the song their own by, you know, because something happened in their lives. You know, somebody was born, somebody died, you fell in love, you felt fear. So many things that can happen in your life, you know, that can, you said it, you know, you went to psychiatrists, you know, because you know, you had to find the answer to love that you didn't seem to maybe have gotten when you were young, you know. Some of us are luckier than that, you know. So I think, you know, songs they become personal to each person. I mean, the beauty of having sold over 300 million records is that, you know, that you've made over 300 million people happy, you know.
That's a phenomenal number. I mean, that is just a phenomenal
number. Yeah, yeah. And I don't look at it that way. I just think of it in a different way. And you know, all these songs that I've written, they're going to definitely outlive me.
And of course, his songs will outlive us all. Now, join me in part 5 of the story of Albert's involvement in the song When I Need You, which Leo Sayer made a hit, and his involvement in the song One Moment in Time with Whitney Houston.